After the college entrance exams, my niece's diary about the pain of living under someone else's roof went viral. She came to live with us just as she was starting her final year of high school. To avoid making her feel uncomfortable, I occasionally asked her to help with some household chores within her ability. After the exams, both she and my daughter were admitted to Tsinghua University. TV stations rushed to my home to report, asking me how I raised two top students. Just as I was happily sharing my experience, my niece took out a diary. The content was, "The pain of living under someone else's roof." My niece went viral online, while I became the target of furious netizens cyberbullying and doxing. "Auntie, my parents send you living expenses every month, so why do I have to live in your house like a timid mouse? You deserve all this." In the end, because my niece accidentally revealed my location, I was pushed into a river and drowned by justice-seeking netizens. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn back to the moment when my husband's younger brother first brought my niece to our home. The pain of living under someone else's roof. In this life, you'll get to experience firsthand what it truly feels like to live under someone else's roof. Sister-in-law, sorry to trouble you, since Linda is in the same grade as your Nancy. Taking care of one child is the same as taking care of two. I'll transfer the living expenses to your card on time every month, so please bear with it. Looking at the familiar WeChat message from her husband's younger brother and the $600 deposit notification on her mobile banking app, I finally confirmed that I had been reborn. Looking at this $600, I couldn't help but laugh. Their family sure had a clever scheme, because my daughter was in her senior year of high school. And I was a writer with high flexibility, rent a place near the school to accompany the child as a day student. Upon learning this, my husband's younger brother and sister-in-law sent their niece to me, citing their need to work far away. They then said they would give me $600 per month for the child's living expenses, although I knew full well that $600 wouldn't even cover the child's food costs. Not to mention teenage girls have many additional expenses, but after all, she's a child I've watched grow up from such a young age. How could I really refuse? And so, my niece Linda moved into my home. I was just worried the young girl might overthink things. I told her that her parents sent me living expenses every month, but didn't specify the amount, and asked her to treat this place as her own home. Moreover, whatever my own daughter gets, I always buy her the same, down to the smallest stationery item or a single pen. From small allowances to after-school tutoring classes, I never treated her unfairly just because she wasn't my biological daughter. In fact, at first I would refuse whenever she volunteered to do household chores, but later, fearing she might feel useless and hurt her self-esteem, I agreed to let her handle some simple, time-efficient tasks within her capability. In the end, both of them were admitted to Tsinghua University, and I was truly delighted. I felt that all my efforts in taking care of the two children were not in vain, but I never expected that it was all just my wishful thinking from the start. In the end, I ended up raising an ungrateful person, thinking about how I was cyberbullied to a tragic death in my previous life. This time, I won't go easy on her again. "Auntie, what did my dad say to you?" Linda craned her neck and leaned in close to me, trying hard to see the chat between me and her dad. In my previous life, to prevent the child from knowing that her heartless parents had only given $600 before abandoning her with me, I quickly turned off my phone, not letting her see the message, but she thought I didn't want her to know how much money her parents had given me. She believed I just wanted to keep the money for myself and my own daughter. After the college entrance exams, the two families completely fell out. It was only then that I learned from my daughter. My niece often called her parents crying about how poorly she was living here. Her parents would angrily scold me over the phone, saying they had given me living expenses, yet I treated their daughter so harshly, but they never told my niece that the so-called living expenses were actually only $600. After scolding me, they told my niece that this is how it is when living in someone else's house, and she should just endure it until the college entrance exams are over. Thinking of this, I directly handed the phone to her this time, letting her see clearly what kind of people her parents are. "Your parents said you could stay at my place, but they only gave $600, which isn't even enough to cover your share of the rent." Yes, $600 isn't even enough for her portion of the rent, because it's a school district property for a key high school. The rent is nearly $3,000 per month. If calculated per person, it would still cost at least $1,000 per month. Yet she lived there for 3 years without paying a penny, and in the end, showed no gratitude. Right after that, I began to sigh. The school district housing is so expensive, costing $3,000 a month. I don't know what your parents were thinking. $600 isn't even enough for your meals alone, being just a young girl. Her face immediately turned red upon hearing this. Auntie, I eat very little. My daughter also quietly tugged at my sleeve from behind, hinting that this might not be appropriate. I patted my daughter's hand and turned back to continue speaking to my niece. Anyway, I'm still your aunt, so I won't charge you rent. You can eat with us every month. Whatever we eat, you'll eat too, but don't expect anything else. I understand, Auntie. Watching my niece lower her head with that pitiful look, to be honest, I felt my heart soften a little again. But wasn't I fooled by her appearance like this in my past life? Indeed, education doesn't equal character. Even if she eventually gets into the best university, it won't change the inherent flaws in her nature. After school starts, soon came the first thing that made me a complete fool in my previous life. Whether in my past life or this one, I still can't understand. How could parents not even pay their child's tuition? Are they really expecting others to raise their child for them? In my previous life, I paid my daughter's tuition fees through my phone. I had no idea that my niece hadn't paid her tuition fees. It wasn't until my niece's homeroom teacher called me to come to the school that I found out. Yes, my younger brother and sister-in-law had directly filled in my information in the parent details section of the child's records. When I arrived at the school, I saw my niece standing in the office with her head lowered. Clearly, it was her parents' issue. Yet she looked as if she had committed some grave mistake, which broke my heart. I quickly paid her tuition fees. Then I told her to return to the classroom and focus on her studies. Auntie, why didn't your sister's homeroom teacher call you in? Looking at my niece's pitiful appearance, should I really say, I definitely paid my daughter's tuition long ago. Who knew your parents wouldn't bother with you at all? Afraid the child might grow to resent her parents. I could only suppress my anger toward my younger brother and his wife, patiently explaining, it's all Auntie's fault. Auntie paid Nancy's tuition fee long ago, and your parents only transferred the tuition money to me yesterday. I was just too busy with your school preparations that I forgot about it. Later, in her public diary, she wrote this passage. My parents had clearly transferred the tuition and living expenses to Auntie long ago, but she refused to pay my tuition. It wasn't until the teacher called my parents in front of the whole class that she reluctantly paid the tuition, which should have been paid before school started. This small incident became an unforgettable scar during my final year of high school. After hanging up on her niece's homeroom teacher for the second time, the phone screen lit up again with another missed call notification. Finally, I had no choice but to answer. Hello, is this Linda's parent? What's the matter? There's a matter that requires your presence at the school. I get it now, although I still had to go to their school. But this time, I wasn't as panicked. First, I took the time to tidy myself up. Then, I went to a bakery outside and bought my daughter's favorite strawberry cake, along with a cup of milk tea. High school is stressful. Eating some favorite desserts can help relieve it. But in my previous life, because I had to raise 2 children, and whatever I bought, I had to get 2 of everything. Plus, there were all kinds of tutoring fees, rent, and other expenses, so my husband and I faced significant financial pressure. I rarely buy these non-essential snacks for my child, but this time, I won't treat my niece the same way. There's no need to save on these little treats for the child. After taking my time to finish these tasks, it was already an hour and a half later when I arrived at my niece's homeroom teacher's office. As soon as I stepped into the office, both my niece and the teacher turned their gaze toward me. I casually placed the things in my hand on a nearby shelf before walking over. Sorry, teacher, I'm a bit late. Is there something wrong? Perhaps because I arrived too slowly. The teacher had grown somewhat impatient. Even though they maintained a polite facade, their tone was noticeably less than pleasant. It's like this, Linda's parent. Classes have officially started today. But we haven't received the tuition fee for your child yet. Perhaps you've been too busy with work and forgot to pay it. I covered my mouth with both hands, appearing quite surprised. My exclamation also made the other teachers in the office turn their heads to look at us. Linda hasn't paid the tuition yet. Yes, Linda's parent. This approach of yours isn't good for either the school or the child. Well, teacher, I'm not really sure about this either. Her parents previously had her come to my doorstep by herself. Then the 2 of them ran off to another city, and just gave me $600 saying it was for the child's living expenses. They didn't transfer any other money or anything, and I don't know anything about this situation. Oh, By the way, teacher, I'm not Linda's parent, just her aunt. My daughter is in your class 1. This school assigns classes based on middle school entrance exam results. The daughter I raised from childhood ranked in the top 10 citywide on her middle school entrance exam, so naturally she was placed in class 1. Her grades remained consistently high, never dropping even through her senior year of high school. As for Linda, while she wasn't exactly poor academically, studying in class 5, she certainly couldn't be considered outstanding either. In my previous life, to help improve her grades, watching her gradually advance from class 5 to class 1 through successive exams required no small effort on my part. I often had my daughter sacrifice her own study time to explain problems to Linda and such, and when the teacher heard that I was just a relative, not a parent, my own child is still in their school, in class 1, and their tone instantly softened a lot. Is that so? I saw your contact information listed as the parent's details, so I naturally called you. All right, teacher. I'll call her parents now. I just took out my phone. Linda suddenly tugged at my sleeve. Auntie, didn't my parents transfer my tuition to you? What nonsense are you talking about? Child, didn't you see the chat history between me and your dad yesterday? They only sent 600, which isn't even enough for meals, let alone paying tuition. The gazes from the surrounding teachers and the occasional classmates who walked in felt scorching hot. My niece's face turned completely red. Maybe you could help me pay it first, and I'll have my parents give it back to you when we get home. Linda, what are you talking about? The tuition for this year is $12,000. I just paid your cousin's tuition and covered the rent and utilities. The rent alone is $36,000 a year. Right now, I don't have a single penny left. Only the $600 your parents transferred yesterday. Should I give that $600 to the teacher first? The teacher also seemed to notice something from this scene. Pushing up his glasses, he said to me, maybe you should call her parents. Okay, teacher, I was just about to. I immediately pulled my hand away from my niece's grasp, called my brother-in-law, and put the call on speakerphone. Hello, sis-in-law. Hey, little bro, did you guys forget to pay Linda's tuition because you're too busy? Huh, sis-in-law. Isn't Linda living with you now? Hearing this, I really wanted to peel back their face to see how thick it was. Yes, just look at you two. Sending the child to me without a word is one thing. As the child's aunt, I won't even ask for rent or utilities, but $600 a month. What can that possibly buy for the child? Let's not even talk about that. How could you forget something as important as paying tuition? Now I'm in the teacher's office. You explain it to the teacher yourself. They clearly didn't expect me to outright reject their face and even bring up the $600. The teacher had to say, hello, parent, several times before they finally reacted. Oh, hello, teacher. Well, you see, my wife and I are currently out of town, and we've left our child's matters to her aunt to handle. Maybe. Hearing this, I couldn't help but interject. Bro, even though the child isn't my own, I've watched her grow up, and I'd love to pay her tuition too, but I just paid Nancy's tuition, plus rent and utilities. It came to over 50 grand in one go. I really don't have the money right now. If you can't come up with it either, maybe you could try borrowing from other relatives or something. And the teacher was very serious. Parent, according to school regulations, if the tuition fee hasn't been paid, the child may need to study at home for a while and return to school after the tuition is paid. Got it, got it. I'll transfer the tuition to her aunt right away. Okay, teacher. Please let Linda answer the phone. Linda tremblingly took the phone from the teacher and cautiously called out, Dad, you damn girl, all you know how to do is spend my money. You've cost me a fortune since you were little. Let me tell you, you better get into a good university in the college entrance exam, or you'll be letting me and your mom down. After yelling, he immediately hung up the phone. As soon as I received the tuition fee transferred by my younger brother, I forwarded it to the teacher without a second's delay. Once out of the office, Linda finally couldn't hold back her tears. Auntie, I know my parents asking me to stay at your place has caused you a lot of trouble. I can move into the school dorm, but could you please not treat me like this? Could you go back to being the kind auntie you used to be? Looking at her like this, I let out a sigh. Linda, it's not that auntie wants to treat you this way. You've seen it yourself. Your parents didn't give me any money. And auntie's family isn't well off either. When you were little and came to my house, didn't I always buy 2 of everything, 1 for each of you sisters, and the gold piece lock you're wearing around your neck now was bought by Auntie when you were born. If I had money, wouldn't I spend it on you? You know that's true, right? The blame lies with your parents for not taking care of you. Ah, never mind. Just go to class for now. After a round of emotional manipulation, I sent her off to class. This time I won't give selflessly without expecting anything in return like I did in my previous life. I need to make her realize how good I was to her before, and that it was her parents' neglect that led to her embarrassing situations. Having saved $12,000, I arrived at class 1 in high spirits to find my daughter. Nancy, I bought you some snacks, and here's $100 for pocket money. If you see anything you want to buy on your way home from school, just get it. That, cousin. Don't worry about your cousin. I thought my daughter would argue with me when she heard this, but instead, she said, Mom, actually, I don't really like cousin. My cousin always used to make me cover for her lies and stuff, and she'd take my things without asking. She even stole money from her own parents. I patted my daughter's head, signaling her not to take it to heart. But I thought it was because my niece was living in someone else's house during her senior year of high school. And not knowing the real situation led to such ungrateful behavior. I never expected that she was inherently not a good person to begin with. In the evening, after the two of them returned home and finished dinner, my niece took the initiative to offer to wash the dishes. I lazily glanced at her and then looked at the surveillance camera I had installed to prevent any unexpected trouble later. No need. Auntie will wash them. Auntie, I really want to help with some housework. Please let me wash them, otherwise I won't feel comfortable staying at your place. I reluctantly nodded. Fine, you're such a determined child, go ahead then, but after washing, make sure to focus on your studies and don't fall behind on your schoolwork. After giving the instructions, I took my daughter to arrange for one-on-one tutoring. At that time, one reason for having my child commute during senior year was to ensure a better quality of life. Another reason was that commuting meant no evening self-study sessions, allowing time for private tutoring. However, in the previous life, considering the immense pressure on both children, we opted for small group classes instead. This time I can't possibly spend my own money to send my niece to school again. Saving on one tutoring fee means I can afford one-on-one lessons for my daughter. This way, learning becomes more targeted and easier. After returning home, my niece quickly ran out of her room upon hearing the noise. Auntie, where did you and my cousin go? Oh, I took Nancy to her tutoring class. Linda lowered her head in disappointment. Tutoring class. I thought your family was really out of money. I frowned. How come I never noticed she was this calculating before? I knew she was hinting at why I, being well off, wouldn't pay for her during the day, and how I only sent my own daughter to tutoring without caring about her at all. Linda. This tutoring class was arranged and paid for last summer before you came. Would you like to join too? Really, Auntie? Seeing her sparkling eyes looking at me, I knew exactly what she was up to, but I still pretended not to understand. Me, what does my opinion matter? The key is whether your parents agree. Here, take my phone and call your parents. Later, I'll send your parents the tutor's WeChat. Once the payment is made, you can just go to the classes. Oh, no need, Auntie, actually. Doing homework takes up a lot of time every day. I don't need tutoring. I can just ask my cousin to explain what was covered in class. Haha, Nancy is already in her senior year of high school. She's exhausted from school during the day and tutoring at night. It's better not to bother her. You can ask the teacher or your classmates the next day. Yes, I'll go back to studying now. If it weren't for the unwilling look in her eyes and her clenched fists, I might have really believed she was as harmless as she appeared. After all, she's just a kid. If you behave yourself during your senior year of high school, I won't make a fuss with your family about the living expenses. I won't pay a single cent more than that. After that, we had a relatively peaceful period of time, until the weekend when my husband came home from work and quietly pulled me into the room. Did you mistreat Linda? What? Look at the message my brother and sister-in-law sent me. I frowned as I took it. It basically said that since we're family, they sent their child to stay with us. If you didn't like having the child here, you shouldn't have agreed to let them stay in the first place. Agreed to it but then treated the two children differently. I laughed in anger. What do you mean, if you didn't like it, you shouldn't have agreed in the first place? Did I even agree? That morning, as soon as I woke up, I heard someone knocking at the door. I opened it, and there stood your precious niece with a suitcase. They went ahead without asking first, and now they're turning around and blaming me. Also, your dear brother only sent me $600 and expects me to pay his child's $12,000 tuition. What? Do they think we're fools? Oh dear, honey, don't be so harsh. Didn't you watch Linda grow up too? Don't give me that. If it weren't for this, I wouldn't have agreed to let her stay in the first place. Besides, if you feel sorry for her, she wants tutoring, you can pay for her tutoring fees. I don't have that kind of money. You're the one who manages the finances in our family. Then that settles it. Do you really think you earn a lot every month? I've paid for all the rent, utilities, Nancy's tuition, and tutoring fees, totaling $87,000. Even her own parents wouldn't spend that much on her, and I certainly don't have extra money to spare for her. My husband clearly didn't expect day schooling to cost so much either. Fortunately, I never told him that I earn a decent amount from writing novels every month. Otherwise, with just his meager salary, he'd be dreaming if he thought he could raise 2 kids in the best school in the city. All right. We've already done our part by providing her with food and shelter. The rest is up to her parents. Let's not overthink it. After saying this, I'm going out to wash up, just in time to see my niece suddenly close the door. She must have heard those words too, but I didn't say anything wrong. So what if she heard it? The midterm exams are over. My niece actually improved from 23rd place in her grade to 9th place. Looking at the report card, I was so happy. This is the first time my daughter has made it into the top 10 of her grade. As we all know, the higher the ranking, the harder it is to make progress. It's not a waste of the one-on-one tutoring I arranged for her, but my niece didn't have tutoring sessions or my daughter's problem-solving explanations, perhaps because of that incident at the start of the school term. I heard she doesn't like to interact with teachers or classmates either. Her ranking dropped from over 200 to over 400, just then. My husband's younger brother happened to call. Hey, TCH, what an attitude. I hung up the phone directly. After a while, he called again, and I casually picked up. Sis-in-law, why did you hang up on me just now? I didn't hear any greeting, thought it was a stranger. What's the matter? Why has my daughter's grades dropped so much? Little brother, you should be asking your daughter about this. After all, she hasn't been focusing on her studies. Half a semester has passed. Everyone else is improving, but she's not making any progress. Sister-in-law, I'm only speaking to you this politely because you're my brother's wife. Hearing this, I hung up the phone again. After seeing the other party call 3 more times in a row, I finally answered. If you don't speak properly, I won't answer again. I just want to say, my child was consistently ranked around 200th in their grade during the first 2 years of high school. How could their grades drop so much after staying at your place for half a semester? You should take responsibility for this. First of all, the difficulty of studying in the final year of high school naturally increases sharply, so a drop in grades is normal. Secondly, if you think it's because she's staying at my place, then let her go back to boarding at school. To be honest, I'd really prefer if she went back to boarding. It would make things much easier for me. But I'm pretty sure my younger brother wouldn't agree to it, not to mention the boarding fees. He'd also have to give her $800 a month for living expenses. How could he bear to? Sister-in-law, what are you talking about? I just heard that Nancy's grades have always been quite good. We're all family, so usually let Nancy help her sister more. Also, I heard Nancy is taking one-on-one tutoring, right? The teacher teaching one student is the same as teaching 2. How can you favor one child over the other, brother? It's not that I won't allow it. The price for one-on-one and one-on-two tutoring is different. Do you think the teacher would teach an extra child for free? If you want Linda to join, I can give you the teacher's WeChat, and you can discuss it with her yourself. It's only about $10,000. Both of you are working and earning money. Surely you wouldn't skimp on your child's tutoring fees, would you, sister-in-law? I think you're just obsessed with money. This time, before I could hang up, he ended the call first. Haha, who knows who my brother-in-law heard that from? So hard to guess. Seems like Linda has been complaining to her parents quite often. The next day, after breakfast, Linda stood up and bowed. Auntie, I've been doing the dishes for the past half semester, but as you've seen, my grades have dropped. Unlike my sister, who has one-on-one tutoring, I want to spend more time on my studies. So I won't be doing household chores anymore. I squinted my eyes. That's wonderful, Linda. I've refused you before, telling you not to do the chores, but you insisted. Now that you're voluntarily stopping to focus more on your studies, it couldn't be better. After both of them had left for school, I took out my phone and started browsing the Red Book content she had been posting, which I had accidentally discovered a couple of days earlier, in my previous life's memory. My niece later became a blogger by riding the wave of popularity, but after the college entrance exams, because of that diary, yet in this life, while browsing local content, I came across a blogger documenting the pain of living under someone else's roof. At first, I wasn't sure it was her, but after flipping through a few entries, I could confirm it was her. For example, her record of the first day of school. My sister and I started school on the same day. But Auntie only remembered to pay my sister's tuition. She didn't pay mine until the teacher called her into the office, and even then, she did it reluctantly. Beneath this entry were nothing but scathing comments about me, but there were still one or two sensible people who asked, "Didn't you pay your tuition because your parents didn't give it to your aunt, or did they give it and she still didn't pay?" To which she only vaguely replied, "I saw my dad transfer the money to her the day before." To this, I could only laugh bitterly. Seventh day of school, Aunt buys little cakes and milk tea for my cousin every day. If only I weren't staying at her house. Maybe I could have the cakes my mom buys too. Actually, Aunt doesn't need to secretly put them in my cousin's room. She could just eat them openly. I wouldn't mind at all. Still nothing but negative comments. An aunt shouldn't be so stingy as to not give the child any food at all. Seriously, you have to treat them differently. Didn't you say you gave her living expenses before? I beg you, just return the money to your niece and let her live on her own. Go to hell with that attitude. I hope your kids get treated the same way someday. But there were still one or two dissenting voices. Seriously, it's her own money, and she can spend it on her own kid if she wants. If you're so righteous, why don't you just go back to your own place instead of stirring up trouble here? You claim you don't have any thoughts, so what's the point of posting this? Isn't it just to rally people to cyberbully your aunt? Support the comment above. Being a relative these days is really tough. If you'd paid enough, I'm sure your relatives wouldn't treat you like this for the sake of money. If you didn't pay enough, do you expect them to cover the difference for you? Besides, other than living expenses, did you even pay rent or anything while staying at their place? Don't tell me you're freeloading and still whining about nothing, silently giving these two a like. I continued reading. Day 30 of the new semester. I'm so envious that my younger sister doesn't have to do housework and even gets one-on-one tutoring. I couldn't even be bothered to open the comments section. But one trending comment still caught my eye. "Sis, after reading your posts for so long, it's clear your aunt is abusing you. You must stand up for yourself. Start by refusing to do housework. It would be best to tell your parents not to let you stay at your aunt's place anymore. For someone in your situation, living at school with your own living expenses would be much better." Exactly. We support you in standing up for yourself. If that so-called aunt of yours tries to pressure you, just expose her information and address. We'll back you up. Reading this, I couldn't help but frown. After all, in my past life, it was these uninformed netizens who caused my death. It seems I'll have to keep an eye on things ahead of time. If she really exposes this real information, then don't blame me. But first, I went to her room and found the phone she had hidden, although I know it's not right to do this, to prevent her from causing any trouble before my daughter's college entrance exams. I still need to intervene a little. After finding it, I took a photo and sent it to her parents and homeroom teacher. The rest is for them to handle. Unexpectedly, when we came back for lunch at noon, Linda didn't even bother pretending in front of us for the first time. She threw her school bag on the ground. "How dare you enter my room, and you even reported me to the teacher." The teacher asked me to bring my phone this afternoon and said I'd get it back after the college entrance exam. I glanced coldly at the backpack she had thrown on the floor. First of all, this is my house, the place I rent. I can go wherever I want. Secondly, I only went in to clean and accidentally found you were hiding a smartphone. As your elder, I've noticed your grades slipping, and I couldn't just let you go down the wrong path. So I told your parents and teacher, but what they decide to do is up to them. I only did it for your own good. Then I simply stepped over her backpack and called my daughter over for dinner. She herself remained silent for a while. She still picked up her school bag and returned to her room. I didn't call her out to eat either. After my daughter and I finished eating, I had her go to bed, while I washed the dishes and cleaned up. After some thought, I still decided to set aside a box of cookies originally meant for my daughter to take to school as a snack and hung it on her door. Whether she eats it or not is up to her. In any case, I believe I've fulfilled my duty as an aunt. Time passed quickly. Before I knew it, it was time for the children's college entrance exams. To be honest, I was quite shocked. After that day, she didn't cause any trouble at all. Our daily interactions were probably limited to mealtimes. The college entrance exam results came out. As expected, my daughter was admitted to Tsinghua University once again. However, in the previous life, she barely made it, only getting into a less desirable major. This time, she entered as the top scorer in the city and the second in the province. She could choose any major she wanted. As for my niece, without the tutoring classes I paid for out of pocket and my daughter's guidance this time around, moreover, she spent too much time on things unrelated to studying, and her grades dropped significantly. This time, she only got into an ordinary second-tier university, although we didn't produce 2 Tsinghua students. Being ranked second in the province still holds significant value. Countless reporters still flocked to our home. Just as I was sharing my experience in raising children, my niece and my younger brother and his wife burst in. "Lucy, I usually call you sister-in-law out of respect, but look at you, you've actually been abusing our daughter for a whole year, causing her to only get into a second-tier university. You must take responsibility." The reporter had no idea what was happening but kept raising the camera to film non-stop. "Me, abuse her? Exactly, this diary and this account are the evidence." My sister-in-law also chimed in. "That's right, our daughter could have gotten into Tsinghua University, but because you abused her, made her do housework, humiliated her at school, and refused to let teachers tutor her, she only got into a second-tier college. You must take full responsibility." Haha, how do you want me to take responsibility? Of course, you should accompany our daughter to repeat another year of study. And you must cover all the tuition, living expenses, and tutoring fees for this entire year, until she gets into Tsinghua University. I was truly infuriated by this family. Then, my younger brother and his wife signaled their daughter to display and read aloud the contents of the diary. I watched as the reporters whispered among themselves. Then a reporter directly shoved the camera and microphone in my face. This younger sister's diary about the pain of living under someone else's roof is written with such raw emotion. Even though she's not your biological child, don't you feel any guilt treating your own niece this way? In my previous life, because everything happened so suddenly, I was completely stunned and missed the best opportunity to explain. By the time I tried to explain later, no one would believe me anymore. In this life, I directly presented videos where she primarily demanded to do household chores, and I had refused several times. As well as subsequent videos where I immediately agreed when she said she wouldn't do them. There were also other videos capturing her daily life at home, all showing that I treated both children equally in everyday life. Then, I produced the transfer records showing her parents only sent me $600 each month. I also listed the various living expenses for both children, including rent, utilities, and other daily costs. They usually don't take care of the child at all. And all the communication and chats with the teacher are recorded by me. However, my brother's family clearly didn't expect this outcome. In the end, the video was live-streamed across the entire internet. Everyone is calling my brother's family vampires, not only freeloading and making others raise their child, but also turning around to bite the hand that feeds them. The niece's social media account was also exposed by everyone. People relentlessly criticized her post by post. Upon hearing about these incidents, relatives all condemned the brother's family for their inhumane behavior. So my younger brother and his wife quickly went to work in another city to escape all the verbal abuse. As for my niece, the online bullying caused her to develop mental health issues. Every day she would mutter things like, "That's not how it was. I was supposed to go to Tsinghua University with my younger sister. It's different now, not me. It's Auntie who's changed. Yes, if Auntie dies, everything can go back to how it was before." Every time she's outside, she rambles on like this, sounding completely deranged. And hearing this, I've started to take some precautions. Later, when passing by the river where I had died in my previous life, my niece suddenly rushed out from somewhere and pushed me in. Fortunately, I had been haunted by the memory of drowning in my past life, so I had taken swimming lessons while sending the kids to school. In the end, I managed to swim back to shore, and my niece was sent to a mental hospital for attempted murder but was deemed mentally unstable. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I woke up 5 years into the future. I had married my ex-boyfriend, who had now achieved great success, and I was pregnant with his child, but he seemed to dislike me intensely. When I took the initiative to cook, he refused to touch his chopsticks. What kind of drug did you put in the food this time? When I tried to get intimate with him, he sneered. Are you trying to seduce me again so you can plant another woman in my bed? When I tried to persuade him that our family of 3 should live happily, he suddenly turned into a wronged puppy. Are you going to humiliate me with the child again? Damn it, could it be that the child wasn't his either? Last night, Bruce kept me up until the wee hours. That insatiable man, he almost exhausted me. Bruce, I habitually called out to him, get me a glass of water, but no one responded for a long time. The silk bedsheet slipped as I sat up, revealing my camisole nightgown. Despite last night's wild passion, there were hardly any marks on my body. Wait. I stared at my abdomen in shock. What was this slight bulge? Was I pregnant? The room was unfamiliar. It was decorated in white and gray, and every detail exuded luxury, but I clearly remembered, last night, Bruce and I were in his rented room. The rickety wooden bed creaked all night under his rough movements. In a panic, I subconsciously dialed Bruce's number. What's up? He was so cold. I bit my lip, feeling flustered and wronged. Where are you? At the company, at the auto repair shop. There was a pause. Bruce's voice came through the phone, icy cold. Are you going to bring up my past again? What past? I was completely confused. Don't you work at the auto repair shop? Also, last night we were clearly in your rented room. So why today? Beep. Before I could finish, the line went dead. Bruce had hung up on me. That jerk. I cursed angrily. Just as I was about to call back, my eyes froze on the screen. 2030. Was it already 5 years later? I stared stiffly at my bulging abdomen. It finally dawned on me that I might have traveled 5 years into the future, and I was pregnant. There was an old photo on the nightstand. It was of me, looking glamorous, and Bruce, wearing a sleeveless vest, looking ruggedly handsome. After calming down, I dialed Bruce again. Bruce, we're married, right? How long have we been married? Why did my dad agree to my marrying you? I was desperate to know what had happened in the past 5 years. However, Bruce seemed to misunderstand something. He let out a bitter laugh. Wenli, are you going to tell me again that you regret it? This is the 3rd time this month you've mentioned divorce. He paused. I've told you, I won't agree to a divorce. Who said I want a divorce? I was shocked. Bruce had a good-looking face, a slender waist, great stamina, and now he seemed really rich. Why would I want a divorce? It was quiet on the other end of the phone, so quiet that I could even hear his suddenly quickened breathing. After a long while, he said indifferently, suit yourself. Before I could say anything, the phone was hung up again. What was wrong with this man? He was so capricious. I guessed I had spoiled him. Men shouldn't be spoiled. Realizing that I was in my own home, I finally felt relieved. I decided to change clothes and go downstairs. When I opened the closet, I was stunned. There were so many gaudy clothes. The styles were extremely vulgar. TSK. Was this the taste of my future self? I reluctantly picked out a relatively plain dress and put it on. Then, I slippered downstairs. Surprisingly, I met an acquaintance downstairs, Aunt Wang. I was overjoyed. Aunt Wang had been the housekeeper for my family for over 20 years. Meeting someone close in this strange future made me feel at ease. Perfect, I said, affectionately taking her arm. I'm going to cook a meal for Bruce. With your help, I'm sure it'll turn out well. But Aunt Wang's expression was rather complicated. She hesitated for a moment and then gently advised, Miss, are you going to torment your husband again? Torment? I thought about my horrible cooking skills. It wasn't an exaggeration. She was about to say more, but I interrupted her. I know Bruce. Even if it tastes bad, he'll force himself to eat it. In the kitchen, I tried to find out about the past 5 years. 5 years ago, I married Bruce despite my family's opposition. After marriage, Bruce quit his job to start a business to give me a better life. Although my dad looked down on this poor son-in-law, he still provided a lot of support behind the scenes during Bruce's startup. Bruce really lived up to expectations. In 5 years, he had transformed from a poor young man to a rising star in Haicheng. According to Aunt Wang, Bruce's assets and status now far exceeded my dad's. However, Aunt Wang helped me start stewing the chicken soup. Hesitant to speak, Miss. Haven't you broken up with Lin Chi yet? Lin Chi. I stirred the food in the pot and asked casually, who's that? Aunt Wang was also clearly taken aback. Your boyfriend. I almost choked on my saliva. We looked at each other. Did I have an affair? Aunt Wang nodded, looking heartbroken. He's also a mechanic. You insisted on getting a divorce and wanted to Before she could finish, footsteps were heard outside. Aunt Wang immediately stopped talking. I turned around and saw Bruce 5 years later. His long legs were clad in tailored slacks, and the cuffs of his shirt were neatly buttoned to the second button. He looked mature and unruly. He had lost some weight. His features were more chiseled. Although I already knew that the man in front of me was my legal husband, I still blushed a little at how handsome he was. You're back. So cold, but I thought it made sense. After all, I had had an affair. Why would he be nice to me? I took a deep breath, put on a smile, and tried to clean up the mess my future self had made. Tired, go and wait outside. The meal will be ready soon. Bruce glanced at the apron loosely tied around my slightly bulging abdomen. His tone was indifferent. I'm not hungry. As he spoke, he turned on the kitchen's fresh air system. He turned to leave. Bruce, I walked up with a spatula in hand and couldn't help but act coquettishly. The meal will be ready soon. They're all your favorite dishes. Just try it. Okay, not hungry. Bruce turned and walked out. Aunt Wang next to me asked carefully, Miss, should we still cook the food? I sighed. Yes, let's finish it. The meal was ready. There were 4 dishes and 1 soup, all home-style dishes. Bruce, who had said he wasn't hungry, still sat at the dining table. I thought there was hope. I quickly picked up a shrimp and put it in his bowl. Miss, Aunt Wang reminded me in a low voice, your husband is allergic to shrimp. Damn it. I quickly picked it back out. I replaced it with a piece of braised pork, but Bruce refused to touch his chopsticks. He leaned back slightly, watching me leisurely. Come on, what kind of drug did you put in the food this time? I was stunned. I didn't. Bruce interrupted me with a sneer. You've cooked twice this year. One time you put laxatives in the food, and the other time you put sleeping pills, just because I refused to agree to a divorce. Wenli, what's in the food this time? I stared at him in shock. I was speechless. I really didn't put any drugs. To prove it, I hurriedly picked up a piece of meat and stuffed it into my mouth. It's really not poisoned. Ugh. Bruce's face darkened. He actually reached into my mouth. Don't I have to eat it? He snapped. Even if it's poisoned, I'll take it. You don't have to go this far. I pushed him away and swallowed the piece of meat. It's really not poisoned. It just tastes bad. There was a fishy smell to the meat. Bruce looked at me for a long time. Then he sat back down. Maybe it was just my imagination, but I thought I saw him twitch his lips. Bruce finally started eating. I carefully observed his expression. Sure enough, the moment the food entered his mouth, even someone as good at maintaining composure as Bruce couldn't help but frown, but he was used to hard times. Despite the bad taste, he almost finished everything. Seeing that he was in a relatively good mood, I pressed on. Bruce, I want to talk to you tonight. Bruce's hand holding the chopsticks froze. I'm busy. His expression turned cold again. He put down his chopsticks heavily. I have to work overtime tonight. We can talk about it later. I sat at the table, resting my chin in my hand, lamenting my hard lot. I had a 5-year memory gap. Wasn't this the same as losing 5 years of my life? I still had to clean up the mess for my future self and try to win back my husband's heart. Bruce, now a CEO, was moody. He could change his expression faster than turning a page. I sighed. Aunt Wang asked hesitantly, Miss, are you still going to mention divorce to your husband tonight? I was stunned. Do you think I want to talk to him about divorce tonight? Isn't that what you want? Aunt Wang murmured in shock. In the past year, you've been determined to divorce your husband. Every time you saw him, you either forced him to sign the divorce papers or tried to persuade him to let go. I remembered Bruce's ugly expression earlier. So, was he afraid of hearing me mention divorce again? Which was why he suddenly changed his attitude and insisted he was busy tonight. What a fool. Bruce worked in the study until late at night, when I was almost falling asleep. Footsteps sounded outside. They stopped outside the door in the hazy moonlight. My drowsiness vanished instantly. I got out of bed with a pillow in my arms. I opened the door. I met Bruce's vulnerable and startled gaze. He was taken aback and slowly put away the unlit cigarette between his fingers. Bruce, I called out to him softly. He looked at me with a complicated expression, then rubbed his temples with a solemn face. I'm very tired. He paused. We can talk about it tomorrow. He was about to leave again. I gritted my teeth and followed him, holding a pillow in one hand and taking his arm with the other. Bruce froze. I looked up at him. I don't want to sleep alone. I'm scared. He turned his head away. He refused me again. I've been working all night. I'm exhausted. I won't move. I promise sincerely, I'll just sleep next to you. I won't do anything. I won't bother you. Bruce didn't say anything, but his Adam's apple bobbed subtly. Suit yourself. I happily followed him into his room with my pillow. What a plain room. He was a CEO, yet there was nothing in the room except a bed and a closet. Well, there was also an old photo of me by the bedside. I was about to take a closer look, but Bruce was quick. He stuffed it under the pillow. I'd been having nightmares recently. Putting a photo by the bedside keeps evil spirits away. Stubborn. He was still being stubborn. Bruce lay down with his back to me, ignoring me. I hesitated for a moment. Then I hugged his waist and pressed myself against him, but the next second, he shook off my hand. Bruce turned around. His face was bathed in moonlight, and he looked sad. Wenli, are you going to seduce me again so you can plant another woman in my bed? He closed his eyes, suppressing his emotions. Have you gone through all this just to leave me and be with that man? I was completely stunned. My heart ached, and I suddenly felt sorry for Bruce. What on earth had I done to him in the past 5 years? I didn't know how to explain. I could only carefully hold his hand. Bruce, can you trust me? I don't want a divorce. We have a baby now. Let's live happily as a family of 3 from now on. Okay, but my words seemed to hit Bruce right where it hurt. He pushed me away, his hands trembling. His eyes were filled with overwhelming sadness. Wenli, are you going to humiliate me with this child again? Humiliate? I suddenly remembered Aunt Wang's hesitation. A sense of foreboding crept over me. Damn it, could it be that the child wasn't Bruce's either? I was so shocked that I could barely speak. Bruce didn't look at me anymore. He picked up the bedding and got up, seemingly planning to sleep in another room. Bruce, I gritted my teeth. I have something to tell you. You might think it's a bit crazy. I traveled here from 5 years ago. The night before, I was still in your rented room with you. You were very rough that night. You kept me up 7 times. Of course, that's not the point. When I woke up, I found myself 5 years in the future. I licked my lips, under Bruce's gaze, which made me feel like a fool. I nervously finished my last sentence. It was my future self who had an affair. I like you. There was a deathly silence. Bruce was silent. Finally, his anger couldn't be suppressed. Wenli, I responded quickly. I'm listening. He sneered. So, it was your future self who had an affair, not the you who just slept with me in the rented room 5 years ago. I nodded vigorously. Yes. I was so relieved that he seemed to believe me, but Bruce suddenly burst out laughing. His laughter was full of sarcasm. Do I look like a fool to you? Bruce pried my fingers off his cuff, picked up the quilt, and left. Go to bed early. He closed the door gently, but it felt like a deafening slam. I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling dejected, thinking about it. I realized it made sense. If I were in his shoes, if Bruce had had multiple affairs and then came to me, saying it was his future self who had done it and that he had traveled from the past and wanted to live a good life with me, I would definitely slap him twice. Did he think he could toy with me like this? I had a sleepless night. The next day, I went downstairs with heavy dark circles under my eyes. Bruce had already gone to the company, and Wang coaxed me into having some breakfast. After much thought, I decided to go to the hospital, to have an abortion. I learned from Aunt Wang that Bruce and I hadn't had sexual relations for almost a year, so, this child definitely couldn't be Bruce's. I didn't know why my future self would do such a thing, but this child couldn't be kept. I made an appointment with the obstetrics department. However, just as the car had driven out of one street, as we passed a small road, we were suddenly blocked by a motorcycle that skidded to a halt. The rider was a young man. He was wearing work pants and a black short-sleeved shirt. At first glance, he looked a lot like Bruce used to. When he took off his helmet, it revealed a completely unfamiliar face, handsome, a bit ruffian-like, and flamboyant. He walked up to the car and tapped on the car window with his fingers. By reading his lip movements, I could tell he was saying my name, Wenli. I rolled down the car window. Who are you? The young man pressed his palm against his chest, looking remorseful. It's only been a few days, and you've already forgotten me, sister. He pinched my face. Is it my fault for not coming to see you these past few days? I've been busy with racing recently. Don't be mad. I'll make it up to you today. The young man raised his eyebrows, looking arrogant and unruly. I probably knew who he was, Lin Chi. It seems you haven't forgotten me completely. I frowned and decided to lay everything out clearly. Since we met today, we might as well get things straight. Regardless of what our relationship was before, It ends today. I have a family, and I won't get a divorce. You're young, and there's no need for you to waste your time with a married woman. Let's call it quits." "Okay." The young man didn't say anything. He silently took a couple of puffs from his cigarette, then turned his head to blow away the smoke. He let out a soft laugh. "You're dumping me now that you're tired of me. Are you playing with me like a dog?" "Sister," I was about to speak. I looked up, following Lin Chi's direction. I saw Bruce in the distance. I couldn't make out his expression. All I could see was the shopping bag he was holding. It was from the cake shop I loved the most. Unexpectedly, my heart ached. "Bruce." I got out of the car in a hurry, and the car door hit Lin Chi. He let out a muffled groan. "You're so heartless, sister." But I didn't have time to pay attention to him. When I ran closer, I finally met Bruce's gaze. It was indifferent, disappointed. And upon closer inspection, there was also a hint of grievance. He looked at me in silence. It seemed he had experienced moments like this more than once. "Here." He handed me the bag. His voice was very low. "The cake you loved the most 5 years ago." He looked at me quietly, as if deliberately trying to confirm something. "You still like it now, right?" An almost sour and dull feeling slowly spread from my heart. So, he had believed my claim of time travel, while I was in a daze. Bruce's hand remained raised, a bit stiff, until, as if losing his strength, he slowly retracted his hand. I quickly took the bag. "I still like it." To prove it to him, I took out a piece of cake from the bag and took a bite. The cream was sweet. I smiled, but I felt like crying. "It's delicious." Bruce also smiled. He said, "Wenli, I thought about it all night last night. You said you traveled here from 5 years ago. I can believe it. It wasn't that I believe, it was that I can believe." Even though this reason was far-fetched and absurd, even though he was a firm materialist, but he still could believe me. When Aunt Wang saw Bruce and I entering the house together, she was taken aback. Then she smiled and said, "Miss, what would you like to eat for lunch? I'll go and prepare it." Her eyes kept moving between Bruce and me. She was happy for me. "No need," Bruce said softly. "We'll eat out." Seeing Bruce sitting on the sofa, I also cheekily sat next to him. "Bruce, just now." I explained. I originally planned to go to the hospital, but as soon as I went out, Lin Chi's motorcycle blocked the way. I made things clear with him, regardless of what our relationship was in the past. "It's over now." Glancing at his expression, I muttered softly, "Also, he's not my type." Bruce furrowed his brows. My heart tightened, afraid that he wouldn't believe me, and just as I was about to explain further, I suddenly heard him ask, "Going to the hospital? What's wrong with you?" I bit my lip. When it came to the child in my belly, it was hard for me to say it out loud. To have an abortion, regardless of why my future self had changed her heart, having an affair during marriage and being pregnant with someone else's child, this was a great shame for any man. Bruce didn't say anything. After a long while, he relaxed his brows. "Reschedule the appointment. I'll go with you." "Okay." The surgery was scheduled for a week later, in these 2 days. Bruce and I didn't mention this matter. He would come home very early every day and have dinner with me. He would also take a walk with me in the garden, and at my insistence, he would sleep in the same bedroom as me, but he always turned his back to me. The past between Lin Chi and me was like a thorn in our hearts. We couldn't say it out, and we couldn't swallow it down. I wanted to talk to him countless times, but in the end, I couldn't say a word. I could only silently look out the window until the night faded and the day broke. My condition suddenly deteriorated. Aunt Wang was worried about my health and would warm a glass of milk for me every night. She was heartbroken. "Miss, since you've changed your mind, you should have a good talk with your husband. The knot in your heart can always be untied. How can you torture your body like this, having been with me for more than 20 years?" Aunt Wang was already like family to me. To keep me company, she took me to the mountains to relax. The mountain road was winding, and many young people were racing and taking sharp turns here. The roar of the motorcycles made my heart tremble. The driver parked the car at the viewing platform on the top of the mountain. There were quite a few motorcycles parked nearby. Aunt Wang helped me out of the car. "Look at the scenery here. It can soothe your mood. You've always been too sensitive since you were a child. You keep everything in your heart when something happens. You can't keep suppressing yourself like this, or you'll have problems," she murmured softly. I responded casually, until a motorcycle came around the bend, passed by me, and braked sharply. "Be careful." Aunt Wang protected me behind her. I stumbled, steadied myself, And the young man on the motorcycle put his long legs on the ground and took off his helmet. He had a ruffian smile. Come to watch me race, sister. It was Lin Chi again. My face changed, and I turned around to get back in the car, but I was in really bad condition recently. In a trance, I tripped over a stone at my feet. Be careful. Amid Aunt Wang's cry of alarm, someone steadied me. After I stood still, I pushed Lin Chi away forcefully. I just came up the mountain to relax. If I knew you were here, I wouldn't have come. He maintained the posture of holding me, paused for a moment. Then he retracted his hand and let out a casual laugh. I know, sister dumped me last time. Are you in a bad mood? Lin Chi went to pick up the motorcycle that he had thrown down in a hurry just now. Do you want me to take you for a ride? No need. I turned around and got in the car. Aunt Wang followed shortly after. Miss, she glanced at Lin Chi outside the window and asked in a low voice, are you really going to break it off this time? When I nodded, she smiled with relief. That's good. The car drove down the mountain road. Outside the car window, the mountain wind ruffled the young man's hair. He maintained the posture of looking down the mountain. No one knew what he was thinking. Bruce came back a bit late tonight. He looked extremely tired. I wanted to take his coat, but he didn't hand it to me. Bruce casually threw his coat on the sofa, loosened his tie, and said, I'm a bit tired. Let me rest for a while. I know. I cooked your favorite dishes. Try some. But Bruce suddenly got angry. I said I'm very tired. Can you just let me be for a while? He picked up the water cup in front of him and smashed it on the ground. The splashing fragments grazed my calf. It hurt a bit. Bruce came to his senses and looked a bit annoyed. Sorry. Aunt Wang ran over with a first aid kit. When Bruce reached out to take it, Aunt Wang, who was always kind, avoided him. She was a bit afraid of Bruce, but she still choked up and said, Mr. She. I know it's not my place to speak, but I really feel sorry for the miss. Since you've decided to make a fresh start, there shouldn't be any more grudges. She's really in a bad state recently. She's been carefully observing your expression every day. She almost fell on the mountain today. If it weren't for Aunt Wang, I interrupted her. Give me the first aid kit and go out. Aunt Wang realized she had said too much, sighed, and stuffed the first aid kit into my hands. Bruce didn't say anything. He squatted down to apply medicine to me. No need. I tried to dodge, but he held my ankle firmly. It's bleeding. He squatted in front of me and applied the medicine gently. I was too emotional just now. Sorry. I looked down at him. Do you have something on your mind? Bruce's hand paused. No, you're lying. I stared at him thoughtfully. Are all CEOs this stubborn, Bruce? When I read novels, I hate male leads who don't communicate the most. If you've misunderstood something, or if you have any thoughts, you can tell me, even if you can't accept my past and want a divorce. I paused, holding back my emotions and said softly, you can also tell me directly, I don't want a divorce. Bruce retorted. I took the initiative to confess. Aunt Wang accompanied me up the mountain to relax today, and we happened to meet Lin Chi. I ignored him, but when I tripped over a stone, he ran over to support me. That's all, I asked tentatively. Did the driver tell you something? He shook his head, then nodded. Someone sent me an email. It was a 2-second video. On the mountain, he had his arm around you. I was stunned for 2 seconds, so that's why you lost your temper just now. It was a video that was only 2 seconds long and had been cut off at the beginning and end. Perhaps sensing my emotions, Bruce looked up. His gaze swept over me, and when he spoke, he had already calmed down completely. He said, Wen Li. You can't expect someone who has been bitten by a snake countless times to not be suspicious, but it was my fault. I should communicate next time. The man pursed his lips and lowered his eyes, looking like a slightly arrogant puppy admitting his mistake. In fact, I always knew that Bruce was a very stubborn person. Because of this, Bruce and I had even quarreled and broken up before. The night in his rented room 5 years ago was actually the first night we made up. I sat next to Bruce. I took the initiative to hold his arm. I promised you that I would break up with Lin Chi completely. If I go back on my word, I'll tell you. So, if I don't tell you personally, can you also try to trust me? Okay. I leaned forward, wanting to kiss him, but at the moment when I was about to kiss him, my gaze suddenly caught sight of my slightly bulging abdomen. My heart sank. Instantly, a huge sense of shame overwhelmed me. I didn't even dare to kiss him, because I felt too dirty and unworthy. I froze for 2 seconds. I stiffly kissed him on the cheek. The night was too dark. I clutched the corner of my clothes. My heart filled with guilt and pain. I didn't notice Bruce's eyes that darkened instantly. At night, Aunt Wang warmed a glass of milk for me on time again. Miss, I'm sorry. She handed me the milk and apologized softly. I almost said the wrong thing today. It's okay. I smiled at her absent-mindedly. I know you care about me. I'm fine. Aunt Wang let out a sigh of relief. Told me to drink the milk and go to bed early, and then left with peace of mind. After the door closed, I took the cup and went into the bathroom. I poured out the milk. The milky white liquid stained the inner wall of the toilet and was then washed away by the running water. I took the initiative to find Lin Chi. He didn't seem surprised. In the auto repair shop, his colleagues were cheering and whistling because of my arrival. Lin Chi was wearing a sleeveless vest. He had a clean sweat towel draped around his neck. He casually wiped the sweat off his face and walked over. He had specially washed his hands and unscrewed a bottle of water and handed it to me. Seeing that I didn't take it, Lin Chi smiled and took a sip himself. What do you want to ask me? Sister, I glanced at the group of people cheering not far away. Is it convenient to talk in private? Before I could finish, he interrupted me. Sure. In a milk tea shop, Lin Chi ordered a bowl of shaved ice, took a bite, and seemed to be chilled by it. He raised his eyebrows. I paused and then said with difficulty, what exactly was our relationship? Lin Chi didn't answer. Instead, he looked at me. Have you lost your memory? You could say so. Lin Chi bit the spoon and answered my previous question. We were sort of boyfriend and girlfriend. Did we sleep together? He was amused by my bluntness and swallowed a large piece of ice. No, really, because I didn't want sister to regret it. Just like now, when you're tired of me, you can dump me. Sister can just say it's over with a light word, and you can return to your family with a clean slate. Seeing me stunned, Lin Chi resumed his nonchalant look. Touched. Just kidding. He took another big spoonful of ice. Don't worry, I'm not very good in that aspect. I've been suffering from insomnia these nights. I keep replaying everything in my mind. Lin Chi isn't the type of person I like. I don't have any feelings of being attracted to him at all. I've examined myself countless times, even if, at the very least, I really had a change of heart and fell in love with Lin Chi. I still wouldn't let myself get pregnant with his child without getting a divorce first. I've always been serious about relationships. Even if I fall in love with someone else, I will definitely end the previous relationship before starting a new one. I began to wonder, was there some other hidden truth behind all of this? The day before the surgery, Bruce was extremely busy. When I called him at 3 p.m., it was his assistant who answered. The assistant said that Mr. Bruce still hadn't had lunch. I felt sorry for him when I heard that. So I took the stewed chicken soup I had made and went to his company. The employees all recognized me. They greeted me one after another. However, when I was waiting for Bruce outside the conference room, I vaguely heard whispers coming from around the corner. It seems that the boss's wife and Mr. Bruce have a really good relationship. She even came to deliver chicken soup herself. What do you know? I heard that Mr. Bruce has been cuckolded multiple times. Mr. Bruce really loves her so much that he can even tolerate that. Is that true? The boss's wife looks gentle, but she's so promiscuous. You're so naive. Women who can climb up the social ladder like this are never simple. I heard that she has a younger guy outside, and he's also a mechanic. It's so disgusting. She must be really desperate. Oh my God. Then the child in her belly, we don't know whose it is. We'll find out when the child is born. I held the thermos bucket, my body stiff, feeling as if I had fallen into an ice cave. So it turned out, the shameful things my future self had done had already spread like wildfire. Bruce was such a proud person. He was being criticized because of me. He must hate me, right? Suddenly, my hand felt warm. I didn't know when Bruce had come out, and he took the thermos bucket from my hand. Have you been waiting for a long time? Holding back my sadness, I shook my head. No. Bruce gave his assistant a look. The company doesn't need employees who gossip during working hours. The assistant understood and walked towards the corner. He had heard everything. Even after following him into the office, I still couldn't quite come to my senses. Sorry, it's not necessary. Bruce calmly unscrewed the thermos bucket and poured out a bowl of chicken soup. I'm not that fragile. He took a sip of the chicken soup. Still, because of the taste, he unconsciously frowned. Wenli, you should know me. I never care about those rumors. I said I could believe you. Since I've chosen to believe, I will let go of the past completely. He put down the bowl. He waved at me. Come here. I walked over slowly, after traveling through time. Because of the unknown things with Lin Chi, I always felt ashamed in front of Bruce. It was the same now. Bruce sat on the leather sofa and pulled me onto his lap. It was an intimate gesture that we hadn't had for a long time. Wenli, he suddenly asked me. Why didn't you want to kiss me that day? It took me a while to realize that he was talking about that night when I wanted to kiss him but didn't dare to in the end because of my shame. He held me in his arms and asked me carefully, is it because you dislike me, or because you don't like me anymore? You resist being close to me. He lowered his eyes, and it seemed that he even unconsciously held his breath. He was just like a wronged puppy. I told him the truth. I didn't have the face to kiss you. He was stunned for a moment. He looked up at me. I think I'm dirty. Before I could finish, he stopped me with a kiss, our lips and teeth intertwined, swallowing all my words. Wenli, he sighed softly in my ear. You know me better than anyone else. You know that I'm a hopeless romantic. From now on, we'll only talk about the future. Let the past be the past, okay? His tone was suppressed, gentle, and humble. It was as if the person who had made a mistake wasn't me, it was him. Today was the day of my surgery. Bruce received an urgent call and had to go to the company. He glanced at his watch. You go to the hospital first. I'll finish dealing with this in at most half an hour and will definitely rush there before the surgery. Okay. Bruce left in a hurry. I drove to the hospital alone, which was only a 10-minute drive away. The underground parking lot was almost full. I finally found a spot in the corner and parked the car. I opened the door and got out. Suddenly, someone forcefully covered my mouth and nose. Who was it? As I breathed, I immediately felt dizzy. Soon, my consciousness faded. When I woke up, I vaguely heard a familiar voice in my ear. There were people arguing. Mom, do you know that what you're doing is a crime? This is kidnapping and illegal detention. You're breaking the law yourself. And you want to drag me into it too. The middle-aged woman was so anxious that she slapped her thigh. Silly son, is this kind of thing between a man and a woman considered illegal? She's unconscious now. Everything that should have happened between you two has happened. When she wakes up, the deed will be done, and she'll have to listen to you. When the police ask, just let her say that she did it voluntarily. Okay, who says having an affair is illegal? The voices gradually became clearer. I opened my eyes. I saw the two people at the door of the room. Lin Chi lit a cigarette, looking annoyed. You've controlled me for so many years. Isn't that enough? Wenli doesn't love me at all. Why do you insist on pushing us together? Are you crazy? What do you know? The other person's tone suddenly rose. Do you know how much Bruce is worth now, with his feelings for Wenli, even if they divorce because of her fault? He will at least give her 1/3 of his property. Then when you marry Wenli, you won't have to worry for the rest of your life, or even the next few lifetimes. Would your mother harm you? She choked up. I'm taking the risk of being caught to do all this, isn't it for you? The other person wiped away her tears and turned around. The face hidden in the darkness gradually became clear. It was Aunt Wang. I closed my eyes and continued to pretend to be unconscious. A few days ago, I had already guessed that Aunt Wang was up to something, so I had been secretly investigating and gathering evidence. I just didn't expect that she would take action so soon. The conversation continued. Don't hesitate, silly son. I originally planned to keep her in a daze until she got a divorce, and then she would marry you with the property. Who knew that she suddenly became clear-headed recently? She not only broke up with you but also had her heart set on reconciling with Bruce. She cursed. Looking vicious, that Bruce is such a wimp. He's been cuckolded, but he still won't divorce her. Mom, Lin Chi interrupted her. What cuckold? You clearly know that the feelings Wenli had for me before were all because you drugged her for a long time and then hypnotized and brainwashed her when she was unconscious. You also know better that the child isn't mine at all. It's hers and Bruce's. I've never touched her. Slap. There was a clear sound of a slap. Aunt Wang's voice trembled. How dare you say that? I've done so much for you. And what about you? You used to be the most obedient to me. Lin Chi laughed. Obedient? Yes. Who wouldn't be obedient to a mother who got pregnant before marriage, abandoned her child in the countryside to be raised, only cared about giving birth but not raising, and then became extremely controlling in her old age, drugging and hypnotizing her own son at any time to control him? You secretly drugged Wenli, making her gradually lose her mind. Then you brainwashed her with various false images of Bruce having an affair. You also secretly arranged our chance meetings and hypnotized her with your mediocre skills. When I really fell in love with her, you told me that when Lee had a family and a husband, you were in control of all of this. And when Lee was just a poor little thing being manipulated by you, she has never, ever truly had feelings for me. Did you ever ask for my opinion on any of this? Lin, Aunt Wang suddenly started crying. Mom just feels that I owe you and want to give you a good life. It's all my fault that I'm not capable of making money and can only work as a nanny for others. But why should their children live a pampered life, while my son can only grow up in that mountainous area, come out to work on construction sites, and be a mechanic? That Bruce was also a mechanic back then. Didn't he turn his life around and have what he has today just because he married Wenli? I raised Wenli with my own hands. Why should he get the benefit? In my impression, Aunt Wang, who had never quarreled with anyone in more than 20 years, now had a hoarse voice, looked crazy, and had a vicious look in her eyes. Mom, you've been getting along with Wenli for so many years. How could you have the heart to treat her like this? Why not? Aunt Wang sneered. She was just born into a good family. Otherwise, what does she have? She's been spoiled and difficult since she was a child. As she spoke, she seemed to suddenly realize something and whispered to persuade him. Lin, Mom promises that I'll never control your life again. Mom will go out now. You and Wenli stay in this room and finish what you need to do. Okay, otherwise, it will really be too late. There was a soft sound of a lighter. Lin Chi held a cigarette in his mouth and said in a rascally tone, your son isn't good in that aspect. I can't do it. As he spoke, the sound of footsteps approached. Someone stopped in front of me. A casual, restrained, and slightly guilty voice sounded above my head. Did you hear everything? Sister, don't pretend to be asleep anymore. I opened my eyes. I saw Lin Chi glance at his watch. The police will be here in about 5 minutes. I've already called the police, also. The child is really yours and Bruce's. At the beginning of the year, when Bruce was on a business trip, my mom coaxed you into giving all the nannies in the villa 2 days off. She made a table full of food with drugs in it and waited for you and me to eat. I couldn't bear it, so I used your phone to send a message to Bruce, tricking him into coming back. You had the meal and went back to the room together, seeing me staring at him intently. Lin Chi gave a bitter smile. Don't worry. I'm not that perverted. I didn't watch. I left as soon as I saw you two enter the room, but I didn't expect my mom to go back at night. After she found out that Bruce had come back, she took you to the next room. While Bruce was unconscious, she stuffed a woman into his room to create the false appearance of him having an affair. The next day, you had a quarrel with Bruce. He thought that you tricked him into coming back last night so that you could deliberately stuff a woman into his room to get a divorce, and you thought that he had an affair. The child was conceived that night. He spread his hands. I really haven't touched you, sister. I looked at him coldly. Then why didn't you say so earlier? He gave a bitter smile. Actually, I'm often in a state of confusion and can't tell the difference between reality and dreams, sometimes when I'm sober. I plan to tell you the truth, but the next second I'm controlled by her again. I've been muddling along until now. At this moment, Aunt Wang, who had been in a daze, finally came to her senses. You called the police. Are you crazy? Aunt Wang desperately tugged at his clothes. Your father wanted to send me to prison back then, and now you're doing the same. Right? Aren't you afraid of going to prison yourself? I'm not afraid. Lin Chi smiled and let her tear his clothes out of shape. He bent down slightly and looked at her with a calm smile. Do I still look like a human being? Mom, I've lived my whole life being abandoned and controlled. I've lived half my life, and finally, I met someone I like. But in the end, I found out that everything was actually a farce controlled by you. I like racing motorcycles because it makes me feel free. Only by being on the verge of death again and again can I feel that I'm truly alive and not being manipulated by others. I'm a human being. Not a dog you raised. You always say that you gave me life and that I owe you my life. Okay, I'm giving it back now. Let's be caught together. Even if I'm executed, I'll accept it. He smiled. His eyes were red from crying. Are you satisfied, Mom? Aunt Wang shook her head tremblingly and cried heart-wrenchingly. Finally, she broke down and pushed Lin Chi towards the door with all her strength. You go quickly. I did everything. It has nothing to do with you. Go quickly. Bang. Suddenly, the iron door was kicked open with great force. Bruce arrived one step ahead of the police, his gaze quickly fixed on me. Seeing that I was okay, he let out a sigh of relief. He suddenly pressed Lin Chi against the wall. A punch landed heavily. Lin Chi didn't dodge. Instead, Aunt Wang let out a scream and rushed over desperately to pull Bruce away. "Let go of my son, you, get lost." Bruce never hit women, but at this moment, he kicked Aunt Wang in the abdomen. She was kicked nearly 2 meters away and crashed into a wooden rack, crying and unable to get up for a long time. When the police arrived, Lin Chi had been punched several times by Bruce and had blood all over his face. He didn't fight back. He collapsed on the ground like a dead dog, until the police pulled him and Bruce apart. When he was being escorted to the police car, Lin Chi turned around and took a look at me, who was carefully protected in Bruce's arms. Blood obscured his face. I couldn't see his expression clearly. I only saw his eyes curve slightly. His eyes were very much like the time when I told him that everything was over. He leaned against the car window that was rolled down and said in a soft and slow tone, "Are you playing with me like a dog, sister?" That child still couldn't be saved, because Aunt Wang had secretly given me too many psychiatric drugs before. The child's development wasn't normal. I had an induced labor. It was very cruel. I cried bitterly that day. Bruce stayed with me the whole time. He soothed me, saying it didn't matter, and that we would have our own baby in the future. But even though he was so strong, his eyes still turned red. That night, I dreamed of a little girl, a chubby little ball of cuteness. She nestled into my arms and wiped away my tears. She said, "Mom, wait for me. I'll come back to be with you soon. Mom, be good and don't cry. Wait for me. Come on, you too." Tonight is the first real wedding night for me and Bruce. After all, the memories after our marriage belong to Wenli from 5 years in the future. I, who traveled here from 5 years ago, know nothing about that night. Before, there were too many misunderstandings, fits of pique, and rifts between Bruce and me. Later, I spent a long time recuperating after the surgery. Bruce also forced me to take care of my body for another 2 months, and so, it was postponed until today, after dinner. We tacitly went back to the room together. Bruce sat by the bedside. "Come here." I obediently went over and was pressed onto his lap by Bruce. His breath was hot against my earlobe. "Do you want to take a shower first?" "No." "Then shall I go first?" "No." Bruce paused and then smiled. Then together, I buried my face in the crook of his neck. Bruce asked back. "I can't hear you clearly. Didn't you have enough dinner?" My face was burning hot. In the end, I just gave in and leaned against his shoulder. "Yes, I'm not full. It's up to you whether you can satisfy me." Bruce let out a laugh. His palm pressed against my waist, and he lifted me up in a rather embarrassing position. He had done a lot of hard labor before, and there were thick calluses on his palm from years of grinding. His palm slipped under my clothes along the hem, making my waist itch and ache. I couldn't help but shrink into his arms, and just like that, we entered the bathroom. The shower was on, and the sound of the water was gurgling continuously. Bruce's hand pressed against the back of my head. The silk bed sheet slipped as I sat up, revealing my camisole nightgown. He pried open my lips and forcefully swept over every inch, almost sucking up all the air. I went limp in his arms. My hands had nowhere to hold on, so I could only cling to his neck. "Wenli, I breathed in the fresh air rapidly. Then I heard him sigh. "The night you stubbornly followed me back to the bedroom with a pillow in your arms. I really wanted to do this." "Do what?" But Bruce refused to respond to me anymore. He replaced his answer with actions instead. It was tender, passionate, and forceful. All the missed time was compensated for in a certain intimate way at this moment. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.